I drove past a church hall yesterday, and there was this little sandwich board out front that said, blood drive today, free cookies.
Right.
And it struck me, we have completely, domesticated this process. We think of it as this warm, fuzzy community thing.
A bake sale for your veins.
Exactly. But looking at the stack of research we have for today, I feel like that sandwich board is, well, it's false advertising.
It definitely leaves out the heavy machinery. If you actually look at the AABB standards we're covering, that sign should probably say something like, high-stakes biological manufacturing plant. Enter at your own risk.
That is the exact vibe I got reading through these protocols. It feels less like a charity drive and more like a NASA launch sequence.
Well, it's not far off.
I mean, we're talking about a process where a single degree of temperature change or one misidentified protein can turn a bag of life-saving fluid into a biological weapon.
That's not hyperbole. We're doing a deep dive into immunohematology today, and the mission really is to strip away that charity marketing and look at the engineering of it all.
Tracing the journey from the donor's arm to the patient's vein.
Yeah, and blood banking is just a terrible name for it. Banks just store things. This is a pharmaceutical operation. We're taking raw material human blood and refining it.
Hacking its chemistry to keep it alive.
And then matching it genetically to a recipient. It's incredibly complex.
And that raw material, yes, the donors, is apparently really hard to qualify. I always assumed if I had a pulse, I was, good to go.
If only it were that simple. The velvet rope, as you called it, to get into the blood supply is incredibly tight. It has to be.
So what's the first hurdle?
The AABB standards start with the absolute basics, the physical gatekeeping, age, for one, generally at least 16, but the vitals are where we weed people out immediately.
Like your temperature.
Your temperature has to be 37.5 degrees Celsius or lower.
Which is 99.5 Fahrenheit. So not even a low-grade fever.
Nope, you're out. And then we have to check your tank capacity, basically.
To make sure I survive the donation.
Exactly. We check hemoglobin. For a standard allogeneic donation that's giving to a stranger, females need a hemoglobin of at least 12.5 grams per deciliter. If you're at 12.4...
You go home?
You go home. It's strictly by the book.
And then comes the interrogation.
Yeah.
The deferral timeline. This part of the research surprised me the most. It's not just a yes or no.
It's a whole calendar.
Right. Like, I take aspirin sometimes. I didn't realize that could bench me.
It depends. If you're just giving whole blood, it's usually fine. But if you're donating platelets specifically, it's a 2-day deferral.
Why the difference?
Because aspirin permanently breaks platelet function. It deactivates them. Since platelets only live for about a week anyway, we need to wait 48 hours for your bone marrow to crank out a fresh functional batch.
Otherwise, you're just transfusing duds.
Duds into a patient who is probably actively bleeding.
And that same logic applies to vaccines. Where I saw a lot of 2-week and 4-week wait times.
Exactly. It's all about live versus killed vaccines. A flu shot is usually a killed virus, so there's no deferral. You're good to go.
But measles, mumps, polio...
Those are live attenuated viruses. We wait 2 weeks. For rubella or chickenpox, we wait 4 weeks.
Because we don't want to accidentally give a leukemia patient the measles.
Precisely. The virus in the vaccine is weak, but in someone with no immune system, it could act like the real thing.
The list gets darker, though. There's the 12-month bench for things like high-risk sexual contact, but the permanent ban list, the never list.
That's the archaeology of things we learned the hard way.
Yeah.
Like CJD Creutzfeldt-Jakob, the human mad cow disease, a family history, you're out. Or the ban on anyone who received human-derived growth hormone.
That was the pituitary gland thing, right?
Yes. Before we could synthesize it, we used to harvest it from cadavers. Years later, we realized that tissue could carry the prions that cause CJD. We can't test for prions easily, so...
So you just have to ban the donor forever.
It's a permanent red flag.
So let's say I pass all that. I'm in the chair, but I get lightheaded and pass out halfway through. The bag's only half full. Is that still useful?
That's what we call a low-volume unit. And your instinct is wrong. If we get less than 300 milliliters, the whole thing is trash.
The whole thing? Why?
Chemistry. The collection bag isn't empty. It has a pre-measured amount of anticoagulant in it.
Okay.
And that chemical is measured for a full pint of blood. If you only put in half the blood, the concentration of the anticoagulant, specifically citrate, is way too high.
And citrate is dangerous.
It works by binding calcium. If you infuse that supercitrated plasma into someone, it will literally strip the calcium from their blood. It can cause cardiac arrest.
Wow.
So for a low-volume bag, maybe we can salvage the red cells, but we have to throw away the plasma. It's basically poison.
Okay, so we've collected a full safe bag. Now for the alchemy. I think most people just picture that bag going into a fridge.
And that hasn't been true since the 70s, really.
No.
Whole blood is rare now. We practice component therapy. We take your 1 unit and split it into 3 products.
Red blood cells,
Yeah.
plasma, and platelets.
Right. It's more efficient. 1 donation helps 3 people, but it's also about preservation. Each of those components has completely different needs.
Let's talk about keeping them alive. I was drowning in acronyms reading the notes on preservatives. CBD, CPDA1.
Think of them as energy drinks for cells. The early ones give us 21 days, then came CPDA1. The A is the game changer.
Adenine.
Right. It's a building block for ATP, the cell's energy. That pushed the shelf life to 35 days. But now we use additive solutions like Adsol. We take out the plasma and replace it with this nutrient broth.
And that gets us to
42 days for red blood cells.
6 weeks. Okay. But then you have platelets. And this is where the biology gets weird.
They are the divas of the blood bank. You cannot freeze them. You can't even refrigerate them.
Wait, really? Why not?
Yeah.
A fridge seems like the safest place for anything biological.
If you chill a platelet, it changes shape. It activates, thinks it needs to clot. So by the time you warm it up and transfuse it, it's exhausted. It's useless.
So where do you keep them?
They have to be stored at room temperature, 20 to 24 degrees Celsius.
But room temperature is a party for bacteria.
That's the massive trade-off. It's why they have the highest risk of contamination and why their shelf life is pitiful, only 5 days.
And there's more. They have to be agitated.
Gently rocked. Constantly. If they sit still, they clump together. If you walk into a blood bank, you'll see these incubators just swaying back and forth, 247.
That is a wild image.
Okay.
Now, the sources also mentioned modifications. Sometimes we nuke the blood.
Radiation, yeah. It sounds scary, but it's a critical safety step. We're not trying to kill the red cells.
Yeah.
They don't have a nucleus, so they don't mind the radiation much. We're targeting the donor's T lymphocytes
The donor's white blood cells. Why?
to prevent a nightmare called graft versus host disease,
Huh?
GVHD.
Ooh.
If you're immune compromised, your body might not recognize the donor cells as a threat. So the donor's T cells wake up inside this new body, realize they're not home, and they attack the host.
So the transfusion eats you from the inside out.
And it's almost always fatal. Irradiation stops the donor cells from being able to divide, preventing the attack before it can ever start.
Okay, that's terrifying. Let's pivot to genetics. The alphabet soup.
The blood types.
We all know ABO, but the source material really digs into genotype versus phenotype.
Right. Phenotype is what we see on the test. You're type A. But your genotype, your genetic code, could be AA or it could be AO. Both look like type A.
But the really complex part is the Rh system. I always just thought it was positive or negative.
If only. Positive just means you have the D antigen. It's the big, loud protein. But some people have what we call weak D.
Weak D. What does that mean?
It's a version of the antigen that's kind of shy. On a standard test, it looks negative. But if we incubate it, heat it up, and add a booster, suddenly it shows up.
So are those people positive or negative?
It depends on who they are. This is a critical distinction. If you are a donor with weak D, we have to label your blood Rh positive.
Because the antigen is there, even if it's weak.
Exactly. If we called you negative and gave your blood to a truly negative patient, that weak antigen is still strong enough to trigger their immune system to make antibodies.
But what if I'm the patient with weak D?
Then we treat you as Rh negative. We give you negative blood just to be safe. When in doubt, you play defense.
The notes on the different naming systems here, Fisher race and Wiener. My head was spinning.
It's like metric versus imperial. That's a great analogy. Fisher race is logical. It uses the letters D, C, E, C, E. If you see a big D, you're Rh positive. Simple.
The Wiener.
Wiener is the shorthand. It uses R's and R's, and the cheat sheet is just this. Look at the R. If it's a capital R, like R1, the person is Rh positive.
They have the D antigen.
Right. If it's a lowercase r, they're Rh negative.
Big R, positive, little r, negative. Remember that. Okay, let's move to the detective work, the antibodies. This seems to be the main battlefield.
It is. Your immune system has different weapons. We mainly talk about IgM and IgG.
The tank and the cyper.
I like that. IgM is the tank. It's huge, a pentamer. Because it's so big, it reacts best at room temperature, so we call it a cold antibody. It's also naturally occurring.
Meaning you don't need a transfusion to get it.
Right. If you're type A, you just naturally make antibodies against type B.
Okay, so IgG is the sniper.
IgG is the dangerous one in our world. It's small, a monomer. It works best at body temperature, so it's a warm antibody. And crucially, because it's so small, it can cross the placenta.
And that's the whole issue with pregnancy.
Yes, IgM is too big to get through, but IgG slips right through. If a mother has an IgG antibody against the baby's blood type, her immune system will hunt the baby's red cells. That's hemolytic disease of the fetus and newborn.
The sources mentioned a primary versus secondary response.
It's the difference between meeting a stranger and meeting an old enemy. The primary response is slow. It takes days or months, mostly IgM. But the secondary, or anamnestic response.
Anamnestic. Great word.
It means the immune system remembers. On second exposure, it floods the system with IgG snipers within hours.
Which is why a patient's history is so important.
So important. An antibody could be at a level too low to detect today, but if we give them the wrong blood, their immune system wakes up instantly.
The notes also listed this whole crew of other blood groups. Kidd, Duffy, Kell. They sound like a 1920s mob.
And they behave like one. Each has a personality. Take Kell. Kell is the bully. It's highly immunogenic. After D, it's the most likely to cause a huge reaction.
Okay, what about Duffy?
Duffy is the bouncer for malaria. The malaria parasite uses the Duffy antigen as a doorknob to get into the red cell.
So if you don't have the
The
antigen...
parasite can't get in. That's why huge portions of the population in West Africa are Duffy negative. Evolution selected for it.
That is fascinating. So what's Kidd's personality? The notes called it label.
Kidd is the ghost. It's treacherous. An antibody to Kidd can fade over time until it's completely undetectable.
So you test negative.
Right. The lab thinks you're clear. We give you Kidd-positive blood. Your immune system has that anamnestic response, and a week later you have a massive, delayed hemolytic reaction. Kidd keeps blood bankers up at night.
And to find these ghosts, we have all these different test methods. This is where it gets confusing because a positive result looks totally different depending on the test.
It's a complete visual flip-flop. In the old-school tube test, you spin it down. A solid button of cells at the bottom is positive.
Okay, button at the bottom equals positive.
But in gel testing, which is more common now, the tube is filled with gel. If the cells clump a positive reaction, they're too big to sink. They get stuck at the top.
So in gel, top is positive.
And a button at the bottom is negative, the exact opposite.
You really have to know which test you're looking at.
Or you could make a catastrophic mistake.
Which leads us to the final check. The cross-match. We all know the basic rule. Type O is the universal donor.
For red blood cells, yes.
Yep.
But here's the universal flip-flop people forget. For plasma, the rules are reversed.
How so?
Plasma is the liquid with the antibodies. Type AB blood has no antibodies, right?
Right, because it has both A and B antigens.
So type AB plasma is clean. It attacks nothing. It's the universal donor for plasma.
And type O plasma.
Has both anti-A and anti-B antibodies. So giving it to anyone but another type O would be a disaster.
That's a crucial distinction. Okay, so we've matched the type. Now we cross-match.
Yeah.
What does that involve?
It's the final simulation. We mix donor cells with patient plasma. If the patient has no antibody history, we can do a quick immediate spin. But if they have a history, we have to do the full AHG cross-match.
But the notes also mention a computer cross-match. We're trusting an algorithm for this.
It sounds risky, but it's actually safer. It removes human error. As long as the system is validated and we have two separate blood types on file for the patient, the computer can certify the match. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't misread a tube.
We've covered a ton of ground. But I want to close on one concept from the source material that really stuck with me. The storage lesion.
Ah, yes. The reality check. We can keep blood for 42 days, but the blood on day 42 is not the same as the blood on day 1. It's a living tissue in a sealed bag, and it's slowly suffocating.
What's actually happening in there?
The cells are eating glucose, producing lactic acid, so the pH drops. The ATP, the energy, is feeding. But the biggest danger is potassium.
It leaks out.
As the cell membrane gets old and leaky, potassium spills out of the red cells into the plasma. If you take a 40-day-old bag of blood and infuse it rapidly into a newborn baby, that surge of potassium can stop their heart.
It's a sobering thought. We treat it like a commodity on a shelf, but it's a decaying ecosystem.
It is, and that's why fresher is better is often the rule for our most vulnerable patients. Blood banking is this constant, high-wire act of balancing logistics and biology.
So the next time you see that sandwich board offering free cookies, maybe give a little nod of respect to the molecular engineering happening behind the scenes.
And maybe check if you've traveled to a malaria zone recently before you go in.
Good advice. Thanks for listening to this deep dive.
Stay curious.